It currently has 322,000 views. So even if you had 300,000 views and people listen to that and now after watching that video believe that the World Health Organization says that you should avoid aspartame, that sets evidence-based nutrition information, health information back. The problem is that the World Health Organization does not say that. Hi folks, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Kat. I'm a licensed and registered dietitian nutritionist, and on this channel I like to talk about weight inclusive and weight neutral focused approaches to health, as well as diving into scammy and, in my opinion, unethical nutrition related businesses, products, mostly nutrition related MLMs, and other fear mongering nutrition related claims. We're talking about a few different topics in today's video. It's a little bit different of a video. It's a little commentary, my opinions, my thoughts, just some things I want to talk about. First up is Kiki Chanel. This will probably be the most popular topic out of the three today. I know I could put it at the end, but I'm not going to do that to you. Let's go ahead and talk about that first. Kiki Chanel is actually the first anti-MLM video that I ever saw. I was already subscribed to her when she dropped her very first anti-MLM video. I remember watching it. I appreciate a lot of the awareness that she has brought to anti-MLM, the message of anti-MLM, and the concerns around MLM. But there was a very real concern that came up with a recent video of hers, and I needed to jump on here and provide clarification because I had someone reach out to me with further questions about the specific thing that she mentioned, and I think somebody can take that video and listen to what she had mentioned in there and then use that to further spread misinformation. Now, the video that I'm talking about is her recent video about Bloom Green's product. Now, the first part of the video, I think she does a great job of providing awareness to the fact that Bloom is involved in a lot of shady advertising. There's so much lack of disclosure around a lot of Bloom advertisements or partnerships done with influencers. They'll have some completely random video and have Bloom in the background, and they're getting paid for that. And so I think the video did a really great job of bringing awareness to that. Bloom is actually one of my least favorite products outside of MLM. It is one of the very last supplements that I would recommend. So all that, cool. Later in the video, though, she shifts the conversation and briefly discusses the situation in which the FTC sent letters out to influencers. Now, I'm going to play for you a clip and then we'll talk about it.
The FTC warns 2 trade associations and a dozen influencers about social media posts promoting consumption of aspartame or sugar. This was a huge scandal. The American Beverage Association was allegedly, I'll just say allegedly, paying TikTok influencers to make advertisements and to make videos where they were talking positively about aspartame and basically saying that the WHO, the World Health Organization's recommendations to stay away from aspartame were unfounded, and saying there's no science about this and it's safe for you guys to have aspartame, blah, blah. Well, it turns out that they had actually been paid to make these videos by the American Beverage Association.
Okay, so y'all heard that. I'm going to play that short little clip again.
And basically saying that the WHO, the World Health Organization's recommendations to stay away from aspartame were unfounded, and saying there's no science about this and it's safe for you guys to have aspartame, blah, blah. Well,
so anybody who's listening to that, the understanding would be that the influencers were going against the World Health Organization's recommendations to avoid aspartame. Anybody watching the video, that's what they would leave with. The problem is that the World Health Organization does not say that. I'll put up a picture of what the World Health Organization actually says. So on here you see World Health Organization, aspartame, the chemical name, and then if you scroll down, it'll give you the evaluation notes. So the evaluation year was 2023. This is why it was brought up in the news cycle again recently. The JECFA, which stands for Joint FAO, which is a Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, / WHO, which is a World Health Organization, Expert Committee on Food Additives. So that committee, they concluded that there was no convincing evidence from experimental animals or human data that aspartame has adverse effects after ingestion. They concluded that the data evaluated at the present meeting, which was the one in 2023, the data evaluated at the present meeting indicated no reason to change the previously established ADI, which is the amount per day amount, of 0 to 40 mg per kg, which is milligrams per kilogram, body weight for aspartame. JECFA therefore reaffirmed the ADI of 0 to 40 milligrams per kilogram body weight for aspartame at the present meeting. The committee, which again included the the World Health Organization concluded that dietary exposure to aspartame does not pose a health concern. My concern with what Kylie or Kiki Chanel was saying about the World Health Organization and the letters that those influencers got is that my concern is that people are going to hear that and think that the World Health Organization is telling you to avoid aspartame when that is not the case. In reality, what she is referring to was the FTC, who did send out warning letters to several different influencers about their social media posts regarding or in support of aspartame. Now, on the FTC website, it says Federal Trade Commission staff have sent warning letters to trade associations and 12 registered dietitians and other health influencers, warning them about the lack of adequate disclosures in their Instagram and TikTok posts promoting the safety of artificial sweetener aspartame or the consumption of sugar-containing products. It continues on. The letters in the trade groups, the American Beverage Association and the Canadian Sugar Institute, express concerns that the organizations may have violated the FTC Act by failing to adequately disclose that the influencers were apparently hired to promote the safety of aspartame or the consumption of sugar-containing products, respectively. The letters to those individuals were because of disclosure. They did not clearly have those disclosures on those videos. They were not sent those letters because they were spreading misinformation about aspartame. The information from the videos that I saw, some of them had that little thing that shows up on TikTok where it says a partnership or sponsorship, but it wasn't clear disclosure. As influencers, we really need to follow. I recommend the FTC's, they have a great PDF that talks about exactly what they want to see. And so even if you're just using the sponsorship button on Instagram or TikTok that, it needs to also make sure that you're following all the stuff in this guide. So that I can understand, but the videos that I saw weren't taking the science out of context. It was very much evidence-based and also very much in alignment with the World Health Organization's information regarding aspartame. Now, you can hate aspartame, you can avoid it, that is your choice. My concern is where the misinformation comes into play and when people start to fear aspartame and feel like they have to avoid it. And that video about Bloom, it currently has 322,000 views. So even if you had 300,000 views and people listen to that and now after watching that video believe that the World Health Organization says that you should avoid aspartame, that sets evidence-based nutrition information, health information back. And so because somebody did reach out to me after watching that video and was concerned or questioning, what does the World Health Organization say? I thought it was really important to bring that up because nutrition misinformation is just one of those things. I can't see it happen and not do anything about it. Also, I scrolled the comments, some of the top comments on the video, and I had some thoughts on those as well. There were some comments that were just eat a vegetable, referencing the fact that so many Bloom advertisements are promoting the idea of consuming those greens, and people are saying just eat some carrots, just eat a veggie. And I just had some thoughts on that because fresh vegetables might not be always readily accessible or available depending on geography, economics, seasonal limitations. Greens products can provide some nourishment, especially in times where maybe that other kind of produce consumption is hard to come by for whatever reason that is. For individuals with very busy lifestyles or in a very busy season, finding the time to shop and prep and cook those veggies can be challenging. Yes, baby carrots are a great option. Sugar snap peas, snow peas, baby bell peppers, those are all ones that you basically have to rinse them. You don't have to necessarily prep those. People can get tired of having those over and over again and want a little bit more variety. And it's not to say that they can't do both either. Now, eating a whole vegetable is ideal for fiber, for the fluid content even, and of course all of the micronutrients. But sometimes people have some different dietary restrictions. Maybe they're not able to chew as much. People with certain dietary preferences, for texture purposes, green supplements can help to fill in gaps here and there. It's important to remember that green supplements can be beneficial or make sense in certain conditions or certain circumstances. It's important to avoid all or nothing statements in nutrition. This is what we see a lot in diet culture. What I really encourage people to do is see a lot of the nuances when it comes to health and nutrition, food intake. Just as diet culture can overlay this kind of idea of good food and bad food, categorically just dismissing something like a greens supplement without considering individual circumstances, that can be similarly restrictive, in my opinion. This approach to me mirrors the pendulum swing that we see in toxic diet culture, going from one extreme to the other without finding that balanced middle ground. Greens products cannot replace whole fruits and vegetables, whether it is frozen, canned, fresh, but they can be helpful in certain circumstances. And just to be clear, I would not recommend Bloom greens to anybody. I would not recommend greens products to everybody. The main takeaway that I was saying is that it depends on the context. Sometimes they can be helpful, they're not necessary, and they can have contaminants and fillers, but just completely to dismiss and say, eat a carrot, it misses a nuance that is so important in nutrition. We just really need to steer clear from binary thinking. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the next topic. Let's shift to a Beachbody distributor, a Beachbody coach. Let's just watch, and then I have a couple of thoughts.
I wanted to talk to you about my success partner. This morning, we're running our Emerald training group for our gals together. And so she sent this message and she's like, I'm sorry, I wasn't in a very good headspace yesterday. It just wasn't a great day, kind of blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, I could have sent, okay, not blah, 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 because there was actually more to it than that. So she said she was up on the scale, and we're doing the same program, and it's not particularly a weight loss program. It's a strength building program and can be utilized as a weight loss program if you do the steady state cardio. I believe it's 3 to 4 times a week, and then watch your nutrition. So we're both doing the same program, and I sent her a text back and said, I felt the same exact way. We were both up on the scale yesterday, and we let it mess with our head. I weigh myself every single day because I like to know what I did yesterday and try to make those changes the next day. And so I was up a couple pounds yesterday, and George is like, you just can't, sometimes it's stress, or you can't go by what necessarily it was what you had for dinner. It's just a combination of things. And it's so true. It's like, get out of that, let it sink in your head, get in your headspace, and then move on. So I went live in my challenge group to let them know, yes, you're going to get in your head, but that's what this group is for. The accountability is there for us to help you get out of your head the next day, get back and course correct. It's like, yes, we're all going to have days where we fall back. It's like, take, 2 step forwards, 1 step back. Isn't that a song? But that's what happens.
Okay, so a couple of things there. One, if you are familiar with my channel and how I approach nutrition, it's probably not surprising to know that I don't really recommend using this scale, especially if you're already doing things that are going to be in support of your physical health and not also at the same time harm those other aspects of health, mental, social, emotional well-being. So if you are intentionally, consistently doing these actions that promote better lab values, promote energy levels more consistently, improved sleep, improved movement, a variety of factors, then as long as you're doing those on a consistent basis, it's more beneficial long term to put the energy and focus on that rather than what the scale says. Continuing to do healthy actions, that's what changes labs. That's what changes energy levels. That's what helps with management of certain health conditions, like with medical nutrition therapy. The coach that we just heard from is someone who does weigh themselves daily. On one hand, getting consistent data, you can see that as just a data point and recognize using that as a way of seeing how our bodies do change, especially looking on a broader scale of a month. For a lot of people, hormones can fluctuate. That can play a role certainly as well. And so from a scientific standpoint, using that data and seeing that data and how it reflects with heavy lifting and how typically you're going to be at a higher weight the following day if you're doing heavy deadlifts and heavy squats, for example, and all of those other changes that can certainly impact what that scale says. I think that you can see it from an objective kind of scientific standpoint, and when you're looking at science, more data is the goal, but typically in dieting, in the diet culture world, that's not what it's being used for. And at that point, we're really going back to what is going to be sustainable, what is going to be promoting of actions that support physical health and don't harm those other aspects of health, mental, social, emotional well-being, and in that perspective, weighing, checking that scale is just not typically necessary for seeing improvements in physical health. Now, when we're talking about MLM specifically, Beachbody, for example, individuals can become coaches with like no prerequisites. They just put in their information, they pay for it, they get some products, and they're a coach. While these coaches are well-intentioned, it's my belief that they're just trying to help people. That does not itself adequately prepare them for complexities when it comes to health and wellness, and especially the individualized needs of their clients, especially when it comes to weight change and nutrition status and the psychological well-being of the outcomes of those. Now, experiencing personal struggles, going through something like that, I think that is very valuable. I think it is so helpful for dietitians and coaches in general, personal trainers, to be able to recognize their own struggles, their journey. I think that can help with a lot of like empathy when it comes to working with people. At that same time, the lack of formal training, especially in those struggle areas, like they can't use those experiences as a substitute for professional qualifications. This can lead to guidance that might not be in the best interest of those clients. I think that dietitians and health coaches in general, they can be going through current struggles, and I think it's important to have, and there's a place for that personal experience alongside of that training. So like basically a coach can be struggling in something nutrition-wise or health-wise and still be very well qualified to help. What I am saying and what I am more like concerned about is specifically this example. When she is talking about how she weighs herself daily, and it doesn't seem like it's for learning more about how the body works for data purposes or anything. It seems more like it was tied closely to how she felt about performance, like if she performed her nutrition good or bad. So like I'm not saying that coaches and dietitians, that they can't have their own struggles too and still work with people. Like that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that specific thing that she was discussing, seeing that weight indicated to her based on the story whether or not she performed her nutrition good or not. That to me, as somebody who has overseen other dietitians, other coaches, in like a preceptor kind of position, and also just in general like helping them with their practice, that is a red flag. It's not to say that this person outside of Beachbody, if they want to pursue health coaching or becoming a dietitian, that I think that they couldn't do. Like absolutely she can do that if she wanted to, and I think that she would be great. I think a lot of the empathy that she has in her experience and her struggles, I think would be really valuable. But what I'm saying right now as a Beachbody coach, like hearing that story, it's just a red flag to me, and it brings just the concern, the continued concern to the qualifications of Beachbody distributors and the concerns around the fact that the distributors are referred to as coaches. The role of a Beachbody coach can be motivating, but based on that kind of red flag and the fact that so many of the people who I work with one-on-one are people who have experience in places like Beachbody, who are now trying to really step away from toxic dieting behaviors and really focus on practices that they can do that support their physical health but don't also harm those other aspects of health, mental, social, emotional well-being. This is just like an example of one way that it can really harm people in their relationship with food and a healthy relationship in their body. Long story short, the qualifications of becoming and being a Beachbody coach is still a huge red flag. All right, let's move into the last topic of today, which is just some commentary on the Kellogg's boycott. Now, if you are not familiar, the Kellogg's CEO, Gary Pilnick, he suggested that families could, in an economic kind of way, choose to have breakfast cereals for dinner instead of having chicken. Basically, have chicken, take the night off. Now, this advice sparked a lot of backlash. Critics described his comments as being insensitive, particularly in light of the CEO's revenue or like his income. And in addition to that, especially when the product itself has increased in price. Now, I have been seeing this mostly being discussed on TikTok. I don't spend a whole lot of time on Instagram. I'm not sure if it is as like popular over there, but especially on TikTok, I've seen so many creators discuss this, and especially like how they perceived those comments. Basically, the idea that cereal can be a breakfast while that necessarily isn't like wrong, someone can absolutely choose to have cereal for dinner or as part of their dinner, and not only can feel insensitive to a lot of people, but it kind of shows a lack of connection to what a lot of people are experiencing. And there's understandable reasons why there is a lack of connection in how so many people are experiencing the increase in food and the issues surrounding food, the purchasing of food. Like, I am not expecting somebody who has the income of the CEO of a major company to have a very real understanding of what a lot of people are going on. I don't know if he really could unless he like lived that out, but at least like recognizing some of that gap. Again, it's not to say that I haven't personally enjoyed cereal for dinner. It's the context of those statements. It's that messaging without acknowledging the broader kind of social and economic factors at play for many people in the United States. Those comments seem to overlook some of the challenges, especially around food insecurity, especially paired with the rising of cost of living overall. Now, I think this is really where my comments come into play. Cereal can fill in gaps. One of my favorite things about breakfast cereal specifically is that they are fortified. The fact that it is fortified has helped so many people, especially children from various backgrounds, but especially those who maybe have food insecurity or who are experiencing that, especially in the home, for a variety of reasons. The enrichment or the fortification can really benefit so many people, especially when it comes to things like iron. So absolutely, cereal can be beneficial or helpful. Advocating that as a solution to economical issues or economical pressures simplifies and undermines the issues when it comes to accessibility and affordability of nutrient-dense food overall. That is the argument. That is the issue. That should not be seen as a primary solution to everything going on. At that same time, I do want to make it clear though, I've seen so many people talk about the boycott and just the concerns or just the frustration around hearing those comments. And then I also see people, in addition to that, sharing just food misinformation and food fear about these products, in particular breakfast cereals and the other products that Kellogg's owns and produces. As a dietitian, my goal is to help people have a healthy relationship with food, and at that same time also help them to benefit, to increase their wellness, their health, their physical health certainly, while also not harming those other aspects of health that are just as important. So it is not lost on me to say that the promotion of nourishing foods, nutrient-dense foods, that is a goal. That is something that a lot of people can benefit from. And when we put priority on that, when we look at accessibility and affordability and all of those things and are able to have those foods that are nourishing, and we can prioritize those, a lot of times foods that are less nourishing, that don't really make us feel good long-term, energy purpose-wise, lab value-wise, those can kind of be crowded out. And so that's typically the frame of goals long-term, rather than scaring people away from eating a food. And certainly there is space for people to consume foods that are maybe not so nutrient dense, or maybe they're fortified and nutrient dense in that way, but they don't have a lot of fiber, so they're not really filling, right? There are contexts in which one food is going to be more beneficial for what the goal of the meal is, whether it's making you have more energy for a longer amount of time and helping you to not have this energy high and then this energy dip. It's we can still approach food and look at the context of the situation in which the food choice will there will be one that helps with that. I'm not a fan of saying this food is good, this food is bad. Food is neutral, and that's not the same as saying that food is equivalent with each other as far as nourishment goes. Basically, long story short, cereal can be part of a meal that is nourishing. Of course, I would not eat cereal by itself. For me, that's going to give me some quick energy and it's going to make me like low energy. It's not going to be as filling. It's not going to be really satisfying. So if I did want to consume some kind of cereal, I would also have like my eggs on the side, my favorite like chicken breakfast sausages on the side too, something to give me some kind of protein and some fat. Maybe I can add some additional like fiber to the eggs, maybe with like some spinach or some bell peppers, other kind of veggies I can throw in there while I have maybe the main carb source be that cereal. Like usually my carb source is coming from either oatmeal or I'll have some toast, especially if it's like right before a workout. I want something that's quicker to digest. I don't eat cereal super often, but that's not to say that it's like bad. I think that there is context and there are certainly ways that you can have that and still maintain a healthy, like balanced glucose level and nourishment overall, pairing that together with something else to provide you with adequate protein and fats and fiber. And with the conversation talking about the CEO's comments, I totally support the discourse, the discussion regarding the Kellogg CEO's comments. However, we can do that, we can have that conversation and at the same time not also bring in like food fear and ultimately not bring in toxic diet culture messaging. All right, so that wraps it up for today's video. If you like this video, please give it a like and make sure you're subscribed. I would greatly appreciate that. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And remember, you can strive for health without subscribing to diet culture. I'll see you later. Bye.